likes. And really for today, the purpose of this introduction to IoT and the webinar series that we've created is to gain and provide our partners with an understanding of IoT, to give you some basics and to help you along the journey for IoT. We understand that it's quite difficult, that even within the market there is a lot of buzz around it and people asking questions, but a lot of partners don't know where to get started within the journey for IoT. How, from Ingram's perspective and our vendors and ecosystem vendors, how we're helping, what we're providing to market as well. And so really the point for us was to start this first introductory call and webinar series today. We do have another 5 sessions coming up throughout next year as well, ranging from a wide variety of topics, from industrial into mixed reality, artificial intelligence and the likes. And again, there'll be more of deep dives into certain areas. Today we'll just be going through and running through a bit of an introduction, and I guess what we'll be running through in further detail on the calls next year as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ross to start from the presentation side, and then I'll jump through some slides a little bit later through the presentation.
Luke, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me?
Yep,
yeah, excellent. Thanks, Luke. Everyone, thank you so much for your time today. My name is Ross Delacour. I head up the route to market team in Asia Pacific for our IoT business unit. So what that means, we've effectively been formed in COVID. So about 6 months ago, my team was put together around the world. So I'm heading up Asia Pacific. I'm actually standing in for my specialist, Eden Galea, who's actually had some surgery the last couple of weeks. So he's out of action, but he would have loved to have been here presenting. And one of the follow-ups that we'd love to do is introduce Eden at some stage in the future. So today, what I really want to do is cover off 3 things. The first one is, what is Cisco seeing as this IoT market opportunity? We know that IoT has promised a lot for so long, and it's ebbed and flowed of how partners and Cisco, to be fair, and probably distribution with Ingram, how we've been successful, how we've made money. Those goalposts have continued to change, and it's actually a really, really exciting time. Hence, one of the reasons why my team has been put on the ground globally to help us execute this market with specifically our partners. That's the number one focus of my team. The second thing I then wanted to sort of cover off is, what is the approach? So what is Cisco bringing to the table? Where do we feel our value proposition is? And how are we either innovating on the platform that we already have, or what assets are we acquiring to complement what we feel is the need to be the secure foundation for IoT? That's our vision, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And then the third piece, and most important part, is how we actually helping our partners execute against this market opportunity, leverage the portfolio that I feel we bring to bear, but also then how is that portfolio complementing other application layer, sensors, analytic layer. And this is probably one of the most exciting things, because it's we'll never ever be the entire piece of the entire puzzle. We are a component of it, and we want to do a really amazing job at that piece. And I just wanted to quickly thank Ingram for putting this together, because as partners are evolving and looking at this space, they're actually taking up the mantle of taking the pain out of this approach and working out what works, bringing the vendors together and looking to execute together, and so you can get an outcome. So that's what we're going to cover off today. So from a market perspective, we've seen the market's on fire. Right? So from a our business looking out, we've just had, this is actually, we've just tripped over 13 quarters of consecutive growth, which is a significant milestone in our business. So that's all well and good, but then, what are we seeing from a macro environment? What we're seeing is that whether it's IDC or whether it's Gartner, IoT projects are getting green lighted. And the reason why they're getting green lighted is for a couple of things I'm going to cover off today. The first one we see, we're seeing this market's growing at about 20% globally. We're seeing that there's a ruthless pursuit of digitization in the industries, and I'm going to cover off the industries that Cisco feels that we're going to focus on really hard on initially, and then we'll build out ancillary use cases into some other verticals. But we're seeing verticals such as whether it be mining, manufacturing, utilities, transportation, public sector. They're the ones that we're seeing an absolute focus of this pursuit of digitization. And it's covered off in two areas. The first one is, how do they, at a minimum, get visibility of their, whether it be industrial or their OT assets. So that's part one. But then it's a journey towards remote or autonomous operations, right? And that's the transition that we're seeing for those 5 verticals that I mentioned. We call it the rise of the edge, but that's exactly what they're doing. How do I get visibility of the edge of my business, of my operations, and then how do I look to take it on a path that I can decrease potentially the amount of human capital that's involved in creating those outputs, and those outputs for those verticals are their competitive advantages, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be delivery of electricity, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're seeing from a macro. But from that macro, then we're living in a COVID world, right? And as I said, my team has been put together in COVID, so we like everyone have walked into this. So what are we seeing? So we've got what seems to be a significant opportunity with 20% growth year on year. But what's really encouraging is that McKinsey and others are telling us that the spend in these sectors is not decreasing. In fact, it's actually the projects are staying on track, and or they are increasing. The spend is actually increasing. There's a reason for that. How are these industries evolving to the new normal? If COVID, I think everyone would agree we're probably not going back to how life was. We have to accept what this new normal is, and that new normal is equating to a relentless push for digitization, and in fact enhancement of those projects, and let's drive it forward. And so we're seeing that in public sector. You're seeing that with the move to autonomous operations. You're seeing demand for remote technicians, machine data, and a really, really critical one, which I'm going to talk about today, is this focus on cybersecurity and how that threat landscape has moved to critical infrastructure. So that's what we're seeing. So the macro looks extremely good from a growth perspective, but then COVID hasn't derailed it. It's still going. And then there's another really interesting point in time that's happening, and that's this IT OT convergence. And when I talk about those industries, we are seeing this, these two worlds come together. Let me take that off. We are seeing these two worlds come together. They're coming together for a couple of reasons. The first one being it's extremely hard to digitize a utility, a manufacturing facility, if IT and OT aren't aware or working with one another. And we've seen this evolution of whether there was silos in these businesses. And don't get me wrong, there will continue to be businesses where they are siloed and they aren't coming to the table, and that's okay. We will pivot and work with those that are looking to come together. But the reason why this is convergence happening is digitization, but the second piece is around cybersecurity. And that cybersecurity is moving to critical infrastructure. And if you look at ANZ, for example, the cybersecurity national document that was published, it mentions cybersecurity threats to critical infrastructure about 60 times in a 56-page document. Right, so we are seeing that happen. And if you look at the confines of what does that mean, it means that a traditional OT buyer hasn't had to have visibility of cybersecurity. And for them to actually look to be cognizant of it, they generally are going to look to their IT CISOs or IT departments to look for support to actually, how do we protect the entire organization, whether it be IT or OT. This also presents a really, I think, another interesting point in time is that, if you look at what is IT extremely good at, IT is really good at setting architectures and setting management platforms to run these architectures and looking for economies of scale. And when we look outside of IT into OT environments, we don't see that same level of maturity in the process. There is lots of different infrastructure. There is, I'm actually seeing in some of our manufacturing customers throughout Asia Pacific, there is still, there could be one of the most advanced manufacturing facilities, but we are seeing, unmanaged switches at levels of the network on the OT side. And so, if we've got unmanaged switches, then we've got all the problems of how do we actually release any telemetry from those products or that switching layer? How do we do anything smart with it? How do we secure it? And so, so we're seeing this, IT's got a lot to bring to the table, and OT's willing to listen. And so it's a really interesting point in time for all of us to be talking about IoT and specific to this IT OT world. So now what I wanted to do is talk about what is Cisco's approach. I said earlier, we aspire to be the secure foundation for IoT. Right? And what you'll see as I go through these next few slides, there's a relentless pursuit to ensure that Cisco's doing. We're trying to see around corners. We're trying to see if we are going to be that for IoT. How do we do an incredible job of it? And is there pieces of the puzzle that we're missing? And if so, we are busily fixing those, and I'll go through that. So where do we play? This is something that I feel is really, really relevant in the context of how we engage with our partners, but also our customers, and what is the opportunity for us all. As I said, Cisco wants to be the secure foundation. So for us, we look at that as a couple of different levels. The first one is we want to be if we're going to be the secure foundation and look to leverage what Cisco has been traditionally amazing at, is that we want to be that industrial switching layer, right? That networking layer, and whether it be industrial switching, industrial Wi-Fi, industrial routing, and OT security, we want to ensure that we're very, very relevant in that space. So that's, I suppose, point one. Point two is that we are also looking at specific use cases where we feel that edge computing, so if we're going to release telemetry to actually make some really smart decisions as quickly as we possibly can, then in some circumstances when there is a need, a customer, and for us, our partners, there is a need to compute that at the edge, and then either make a decision locally or send that to some other whether it be our web scale providers in AWS or Azure, or send that to other information repositories to actually make smarter decisions. So we have our edge computing infrastructure. And one of the things that we've got in here is that you would have heard about maybe in the past is our control center platform that was part of a Jasper acquisition many years ago. That it's the largest on the planet. There's about 144 million connected devices on that platform. And so this all works in unison to deliver, a great secure foundation conversation. Add into that this the need to deliver industrial security. We can't just point our existing cybersecurity measures and whether it be firepower, et cetera, and just point it to industrial assets. That doesn't work. And so what Cisco's had to do is actually we acquired a organization by the name of Centrio, which gave us our CyberVision product, and that's you see it mentioned there. But this is not a standalone play. This feeds up into a greater intelligence play into Talos, and that's what we've been working really hard to ensure that we're not having a point conversation. We can take that and deliver it across the rest of the infrastructure here. And then, at top and bottom, so outside of these dotted lines, you're seeing that, the things, devices, machines piece, it's not a place where Cisco wants to play. And it's also, whether you look at the applications of the analytics layer, it's not an area where Cisco wants to play. And that's why, in the topic of this conversation today, with what Ingram are doing with IoT, is that they're bringing that analytic layer. They're looking to bring that application layer and the things layer together to deliver an overall solution that you can look to monetize as quickly as possible, see value from, rinse, repeat, and look to take it to the markets and the verticals that you do extremely well in. A couple of things I will call out is that we are, as I said, we are looking to innovate internally, and then we're also looking to invest and bring in very smart technologies that complement the offering. And, I talked about CyberVision before with Centrio and how that's been brought in. The main play there is that we are collapsing that into the network. And that's a really important piece of this conversation, is that we can deliver operational efficiencies, deliver critical cybersecurity to critical infrastructure, but bake it into the network and make our partners extremely sticky and provide a pathway for our partners to actually deliver a managed service in that space. What I will call out is that on the left-hand side here, we have industrial asset vision. And this is if you look at, these are two use cases that we felt that we could solve for customers and partners globally, quite simply. Right. And if you look at this world, to deliver a gateway, to deliver sensors at the edge, to have it run up into an application platform, has been traditionally extremely difficult. It's been complex. It's been hard to monetize, and so we've seen organizations look to try it, and then it loses momentum and disappears off the radar. And so what Cisco does is, with industrial asset vision, we've locked in the whole top to bottom play here. So there's about 10 sensors. It covers off asset condition monitoring, and asset location tracking. They're the two specific use cases that we are bringing to bear. But think very much like Meraki, we are feeding this up into a dashboard. It's using QR code to turn on and configure the sensors into the dashboard, and we're simplifying it. And so that's one thing I'll call out. The second thing, and it's a more advanced use case, but we launched what we call Cisco Edge Intelligence in Barcelona. Feels like a lifetime ago, in January, for Cisco Live in Barcelona. But and that's where, I talked about compute at the edge. How do we actually put applications into that layer, make smart decisions with the telemetry, either go, no go at that position, or feed it up into web scale, etc. So there's some innovations that we're bringing to the table. And so then you get this portfolio that's extremely comprehensive. It can look a little daunting because I think, to be fair, and you know, 6 months ago, I was an AM, been AM for 13 years at Cisco. I've been selling Cisco technologies that whole time, and there's a lot of form factors on here that don't look similar, right? And one of the things that we're looking to break through with that is that, please don't be afraid of this technology. Please not be afraid of some of these form factors. It's running the same iOS as our traditional Catalyst IT side, switches, routers, etc. And what does that mean? It means that no one is learning any new skills. So to deploy this technology, we are not learning to have to relearn how to configure anything, and that's at a partner level as well as a customer level. So that's a really key point. I also wanted to mention, as a part of this, it also feeds up into DNAC. And so, from a management perspective, we can see these assets, we can manage these assets, we can integrate them in with ICE, and we can deliver an incredible experience end to end. One piece on here that I will mention is around our fluid mesh in the wireless portfolio. We again in a need to deliver innovation where we feel is extremely relevant for use cases specific to ports, mining, and high-speed rail. We acquired an organization by the name of Fluid Mesh that were geniuses at that globally. They've come into the Cisco family. You'll see more about Fluid Mesh from us. But this, it just goes to show that they were extremely good at zero latency mesh wireless technologies that were specific to those use cases that I mentioned. And so, again, just to show you that we're very deliberate as to how we build out this portfolio to meet the needs of the customers and our partners that want to go after those verticals. So then I wanted to cover off, like as I mentioned, these are the core verticals that we've gone after. And we have been quite laser focused in these verticals, and for good reason. It fits in with Cisco's sweet spot. We can be that secure foundation for IoT to release telemetry to those that want to take that telemetry and and deliver applications, deliver insight for these environments. You see some logos on here, but one of the key things, and this is why I'm really excited about my team and what I think we bring to bear for our partners in ANZ, is that we might have 10 to 20 customers that we've done an incredible job with in each of these verticals. But the market opportunity is not those 10 or those 20. The market opportunity is the next 50, right? And we, as as the field sales team engaging with a Cisco AMs, we can't scale based on the amount of bodies that we have running around, right? And we know that Cisco's one of our key strengths is how amazing our partners is. And so my team is here to help build capability in the partners to go after that 20 to the 50 to the 100 in these areas as they look to digitize, as they look to converge IT and OT in this area. But I'm not limiting us to just these verticals. And this is why, there's relevance into healthcare, there's relevance into retail. I've got at the bottom here this concept of, and we're going to talk about it, but this concept of extended enterprise, where we have customers that have a Cisco IT switching footprint, but don't have Cisco outside of the confines of those, the boundaries of their IT sphere of influence. And that is the opportunity for everyone on this call, is to break out of that environment, leverage all the goodness and the reason why customers have embarked with Cisco in that space, and take it and expand it into industrial assets, into parking lots, in airports, in warehouses, et cetera, et cetera. And so that sales motion is one that I would like to, flesh into. So we've been very specific of where we want to play. We've been very specific of the verticals that we are going to go after and we're focusing on initially, but then we're also being very cognizant of the fact that we have a very significant, without you, our partners, very significant install base that is IT dominant in IT, but hasn't crossed the chasm, and we can fix that, right? And we're here to do that and to help us execute and go after that. FYI, Cisco has about 26% market share in industrial switching, right? Which actually makes it number one globally. But we are not number one if you looked at the, maximizing our opportunity at all. I mean, generally, if Cisco is going to play in this market, we would look to 50% plus market share, and that's the headroom that we've all got that we can go after with technology that's familiar to our customers and you, our partners, but just fits use cases that are outside these confines. And so that's what extended enterprise is. I'll give you a statistic that we've been running some numbers in. Just in ANZ, we have in mid-market, there's about 70 to 80 customers that have spent, in the verticals that I've mentioned, that have spent over $130,000 in traditional Cisco networking that have never bought a thing in the IoT portfolio. Yet, that's just an absolute layup that we could go after and talk to those customers, but we just haven't had the sales motion before. And that's one thing we're focusing on with my team. We're focusing on to build that capability with our partners to do that. So we have extended enterprise. Then we have our remote and mobile assets play. It's a think routing, connect the unconnected. How do we light up pipelines? How do we provide the visibility to these assets, intersections, etc.? The industry plays, which you probably maybe feel that that's what our strengths have been, Cisco validated designs, whether it be utilities, whether it be manufacturing facilities and factories, etc. End to end, quite a deep offering that we can bring to bear in that space, and we'll continue to do that. Though I don't feel that that's the significant upside. The significant upside for us is that extended enterprise motion. And then the fourth one is that OT security that I mentioned. It's very hot in market. It's the reason why you might have seen Cisco doing critical infrastructure webinar series to the verticals that you've seen here. We've now, so we've just completed 5 of those in ANZ, and it's been a great success engaging with customers, partners, and bringing this highlight this opportunity and for us to go to market together. So that's what we're seeing from what's our approach. Before I continue, one thing I will mention, and this is going to be very relevant for distribution and what Ingram's looking to do in a later webinar, is that my IoT team is about to engage with our Meraki team around Meraki cameras, so Meraki Vision, MV, and Meraki Things, so Meraki's IoT sensor play. So that is coming into our portfolio for us to execute together. And if you think about a lot of these industrial assets, what is if switching layer is getting sold out there, what is actually getting plugged into it? It's either an access point that's getting plugged in, or it's a surveillance camera that's getting plugged in. And so, a huge plug for our Meraki team, and how, MV coupled with this offering makes a lot of sense for our partners and for our customers to consume in this space. And hats off to Luke and the team for looking to bring that to bear and bring it together. So how can we help? Right. My team is squarely focused on building partner capability. Right. So with that partner capability becomes, what is the market opportunity? How can we go after it together? How can we help enable and look to take hopefully build an IoT practice in your businesses. And so we look at it as really a three-stage journey. The first one is, how do we capture incremental revenue? If you've got, those 70 customers I mentioned before, if one of those are yours, fantastic. We'd love to talk. Right. So you've sold Catalyst into the IT side. They might love Cisco in that part of the world, but we haven't looked outside. And so how do we bridge that gap into, car parks, etc.? What the one question that we feel is a great one to ask is, what are you doing for outdoor connectivity? Right. And we are driving that into our AM teams. And I would say that, the same thing is relevant for our partner AMs and BDMs as they look to their customers. How do we cross the chasm, look what's sitting outside? As an AM, I had a customer. I won't name who they are, but they had shopping centers in Australia and the US that acquired over time, and we were heavily in IT side, and we didn't have anything out into all those car parks, right? And the backhaul for those car parks, and how those car parks are becoming smarter with sensors, so people know where to park, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the opportunity. What are you doing? What are you doing for outdoor connectivity? We'd love to have this conversation and capture that incremental revenue. The next stage in this journey is looking to build an IoT practice. And that IoT practice, we have it on Black Belt. It's what we call our IoT Essentials authorization. It's been around for about 2 years now, bit under 2 years. But that Essentials authorization on Black Belt look to execute on really extended enterprise. And if you look at the simplicity that we're bringing with that industrial asset vision, we feel that fits squarely in that, building a simple IoT practice and starting to look at, whether it be warehouses, whether it be potentially airports, ports, etc. If you think Meraki cameras, so MV and MT fits very nicely in that space there as well. And then the next level, we have partners that are looking to do something more advanced. And for that, we have our IoT Advantage authorization. That authorization is heavily predicated on industry-specific use cases. So utilities, manufacturing, transportation, oil, gas, mining. That's a very large focus, taking cyber vision, edge intelligence. That's where that fits into this space. And I feel that if you look to go on this journey from left to right, you're seeing the managed services opportunity are very significant as we go up the stack here. So we're not just trying to capture maybe some easy incremental revenue. We're looking to build a business and a practice around it. And Cisco is looking to invest via enablement and support to take you on this journey. And some of you probably already got this, and so maybe it's just a look to leverage the framework and leverage the route to market team as to how you go after this. So that's how we see we can create an amazing profitable journey. If we talk about profitability, one of the lenses that we're putting on this is that if we see the macro opportunity, if we have what we feel is an incredible portfolio that's extremely relevant, then and if we've got a enablement motion that we can assist the partners to build practices, then it's also around, well, how do we get smarter with how you interface with some of our offers, and how do we fix those offers so that you see more value? And so, I'll call out 4 steps here. So the first one is, look to expand your practice with Essentials and Advantage. And, that is a key stake in the ground. It is a commitment from you on Black Belt for Essentials, and actually it's in virtual training, virtually instructor delivered training on Advantage. But we are working really hard on the give and the get to ensure that you see value. The second part of this, and this is where I talk about that value equation, is we are reinvigorating Ignite. And please excuse these discounts because these are off GPL. I'm stuck in Asia Pacific world, but so often Australian prices these would be higher. But we need to ensure that you, our partners, can access these discounts without having to jump through the hoops that we've probably from an IoT perspective have made you jump through. And that the intent here is to simplify this piece, enable you to make money, be profitable, rinse, repeat, go and build your practices. The third part of it is has been a focus to reinvigorate MIP, or our Migration Incentive Program. There are customers in Australia today that do have industrial switches from Cisco. Those switches, we are looking to deliver more addressable discount for you to go after and refresh them. There's a key reason why you would look to refresh those, and that is if we can refresh them up into our IE 3400, which is an industrial Ethernet 3400 switch, we can actually look to leverage cyber vision and collapse OT security into the network at that level. Right, that's where it starts, and so that's a key driver, and we're providing discount to do that. And then this is something I'm really, really proud about to talk about. So in February, IoT gets VIP. And this sounds pretty basic, but the significance of this is that we haven't had VIP for 4 years. And there's so this makes sense. It's one of the Cisco's key strengths. We've ensured that the BU has delivered, a business unit has delivered on this to build profitability back into our partner ecosystem, so that you are going on this profitable journey with Cisco. So, team, for me, I suppose in summary, it's an incredible point in time. We've seen without in the last 2 quarters, without my route to market team being in existence and actually driving into distribution and driving into tier 2 and supporting our partners, we are seeing consecutive quarters of growth. So this is happening, right? And based on that growth, Cisco is investing in our portfolio in IoT. And we're investing in whether it be fluid mesh coming in, whether it be cyber vision as an offering, industrial asset vision as we stand up, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a relentless investment and focus to ensure that we can be relevant in this IoT secure foundation of IoT play. So that's in that space. We see at a macro, this market is growing. Right, it's growing at 20%. Cisco has a relatively low market share of about 26% in this space, which we've got incredible portfolio, we've got incredible products. We just haven't competed, and we haven't done this engagement, this to cut through and deliver value to the partners and show them where money can be made, and then support them as they go do that. And that's what my team is here to do and bring to bear. And probably the most really, really relevant thing here is that it's how we work in conjunction with the other vendors that make sense in this space. And that's where there's a lot of value, and Luke will go into this, but there's a lot of value in Luke and Ingram Micro being that aggregation point. So for them to take pieces of this and then drive it up into simple use cases, maybe more advanced use cases when you come on the journey as a practice, building a practice with Cisco. So that's it from me. I will hand now back to Luke, but I do thank you for your time. We really do appreciate it. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I look forward to supporting you in the future.
Thanks for that, Ross. Really, really appreciate the time to run through this with everybody on the call. So thank you guys, and thanks, Ross, for that piece. What I'm going to do now is just really run through a bit around Ingram Micro and IoT for us. We understand that what we've been finding specifically within IoT today is that our partners have wanted to start the journey. Our partners have wanted to continue going through IoT, but where do they get started? How do they begin this journey? And really, what we're here to do as Ingram Micro is to help support the businesses, yourselves, and also to the end customers, being able to have a solution that makes sense, being able to bring business value. And you heard Ross speak about the size of market, the opportunity that we're seeing, what's happening in the market, that there is definitely growth within this area. And I guess what we've been finding today is that our partners have been coming back and saying to us, well, yes, we definitely want to get involved in IoT. We aren't sure where to start. We might have, or we have end customers today within a variety of different sectors that have opportunities. They're not even net new customers. They're existing customers, for example, that might have a manufacturing plant that aren't currently leveraging any type of technology. They're still on legacy systems. They're not even running Wi-Fi or have switching in there, to be honest. And they're going, how do we help them to be able to kind of move forward, digitize, and work through IoT so that we can ultimately solve business problems for them? And so what I'm going to do just in this next 15-minute gap is just give you a bit of insight into how we view IoT, how we'll be looking to provide it, but also some use case and some solution examples. I guess really where Ross was speaking about is the opportunity, what we're seeing, and from my side and Ingram's side, we wanted to give you some real examples and real use cases of some solutions that you can at least be aware of and say, okay, well, we know that there's something out there that's been built that is ready to go, that we don't need to spend a whole load of time trying to create, trying to build, and then working through how we take this to market. And so really what we're trying to do is become that aggregator for you to take that hard work out of it and put these together so that when you are starting on your IoT journey, you have something to move forward with. You have solutions that you can confidently say, we're being able to provide these to you as an end customer. We're confident everything is included. We know how these work. We know what this will do for your business, what kind of ROI it will be able to provide. And then from there, as you progress on this IoT journey, it will be really about bringing and building an IoT practice within your own business. We understand that it is extremely difficult, especially within the COVID type of situation now, to look at expanding the business in these types of new and innovative areas. And that's really what we've done today and what we'll continue to do to move forward to try and help support our partners in this space all the way down to the end customers effectively. So just very quickly on IoT, what is it and how do we look at it? And I guess what I've shown here is just a simple way that we like to showcase what IoT actually is. And really it is the concept of going to provide business value to the end customers. It can include sensors, gateways, connectivity, compute, analytics. It can include all of these areas, but really what it's about is providing that end customer business value on what they're trying to achieve. We're in the IT space and the traditional space today. We're also seeing a lot of it within the operational technology that, again, certain plants, certain manufacturing customers, industrial customers would have never really even touched this type of technology, but understand that, hey, today we've got a need to understand our machines and our machines keep constantly breaking down. How can we help to make our business more efficient or more effective? And as Ross was speaking about, for example, the likes of the solutions from Cisco with remote condition monitoring, being able to understand and be able to provide predictive maintenance before a machine breaks down to understand that. So that's just to give you an aspect and an understanding of what that includes and how we start to view this. I'm just going to jump in to how, as Ingram, we will provide this. And again, this is really, we look at IoT in three areas. One being components, 2 being kits. So the kits will be somewhat predefined, really the building blocks to get started, and then solutions as an end-to-end offering. Now, as Ingram, you'll see today that we will have components in these areas. Sensors you'll look at. You can look at even surveillance cameras, for example, like Meraki. They will be components in this space within the cloud. They will all be components that you can start to build IoT on. And again, that information that we've gotten back from partners has been that, well, that's great. There are components there to sell, but we're unsure how to put them together. We're unsure how to build that use case around it. And we honestly don't have the time. We're trying to ensure that we can continue to run our business, that we can continue to be profitable, but we still need to look forward in the area and understand the technology. And so that's really where we're moving towards. And so where we will focus on as Ingram Micro is around the solution piece, being able to provide you these end-to-end solutions that have all of the pieces and all of the components built together, ready-made, something that you can effectively take out. Now, within that, there's 3 focus industries that we are focusing on. One being industrial. You've heard again from Ross at the opportunity and market that it is very low-hanging fruit. There's already customers that are, again, purchasing switching, purchasing routing, purchasing this type of technology that aren't even really working on or understanding that they have an ability to move forward and innovate further within their business. And then the other 2 areas, retail and smart building. Smart building can be built out into a variety of different areas. For example, we can look at healthcare as well within that smart building and how we can help to provide asset tracking within these healthcare providers and understanding where their critical assets are within a particular building. And then into the retail space. Now, we know due to COVID that it's been quite heavily hit within the retailers, but some of the areas that we've even seen within retail, how can they innovate? How can they start to ensure that they're being safe and maintaining all of the necessities that the government have put in place while still being able to provide a service to their customers and ultimately down to end customers as well. So I guess moving into that, really what I wanted to do was to give you some insight into, again, a few solutions that we've built out. You heard from Ross around the market opportunity and what can be built, what can be provided. But what I wanted to do is really bring that forward and top of mind for you. And again, within all of these sessions and webinar sessions, we will deep dive into a lot of these solutions. This is really just a stepping stone and a bit of a teaser for you to let you know that these are here, that they have been built, and that you've got some insight into them as well. So moving into COVID. This is just one solution. This is probably one of the simplest to get started within IoT, and it's around kiosk awareness intelligence. So if you think of when we're going to any of the supermarkets today, if we're going into anywhere that really has a touchscreen device, once the airports start to open up even further, what we're finding today is that glass touchscreens are actually one of the dirtiest surfaces on the planet. That includes mobile phones, but also touchscreen panels as well. And so what's happening today is that we're seeing even within that scenario of a supermarket that we've got somebody standing there spraying, cleaning these, or the opposite, and they're not touching them at all, they're not cleaning them at all. So to really build some consistency within an environment, this is one solution that effectively enables the end customer to understand how many times a kiosk, a touchscreen device, has been touched in terms of proximity on that particular device. It is able to lock the device and then also provide information when a cleaner comes through. For example, they can send an alert to the cleaner. The cleaner will then understand where on the screen it needs to be cleaned and will continue to prompt them until that is cleaned correctly. Again, This might fit in one particular area that we think of within the supermarkets, but it also can fit in healthcare. It can fit in hospitality. The verticals and the use cases can be far and wide within IoT, and that while we see it within one particular sector or we provide it in that sector, that the use case can be leveraged in many other areas depending on the use case or the thoughts of the end customer and really providing that business value back. And so that's why just today I wanted to kind of give you a few snapshots of some solutions that you might be able to take out to market today or be aware of that we can provide as Ingram Micro with the vendors that we're working with. Moving into the next solution. Now, we heard Ross speak about Meraki and the MV camera series. This is just another solution fairly similar to the last that I had shown in terms of awareness of the threshold of where areas have been touched. Instead of it being on a touchscreen device, this is actually based on physical surfaces. So for example, within an office environment, we're needing to ensure that the desks are still kept clean. This particular solution leverages Meraki with their cameras, Cisco PoE switch, and Intel NUC for the edge processing device. It includes the ecosystem vendor MELD-CX in terms of the artificial intelligence, and also Microsoft from Win 10 for IoT. Effectively, this solution works in the same way. It can tell how many times an area, and you will be able to dictate that area has been touched. It will be able to tell you when it was last cleaned. It will be able to let the cleaners know that this particular area has gone over that threshold within a certain time. So even if they're saying we're cleaning these desks every 2 hours, there have been multiple people that have sat there in a meeting room that has been touched too many times now. It's deemed dirty or unsatisfactory, that they can send an alert to the cleaners to come in and complete that. Again, just another solution to give you a bit of a teaser and insight into what can be provided and really how we're aggregating these types of components to build a solution to market. And again, these are all ready to go, built to be able to provide you as a partner an easy, scalable way to go to market with IoT without needing to do this all from your own side. Moving into the next sector. Again, this one we have a lot of information around fever detection. And we have seen that, for example, an aged care facility has had a need for this. It's not that they need complete accuracy within it. It's that they have, for example, 8 entryways within a facility that they're needing to have a nurse positioned at every single entry to be able to understand when people are coming through to check them as well. With this solution, they're able to remove those 8 nurses from the 8 entries, be able to put a physical camera in play, and then be able to understand a rough guide of the temperature. Once somebody has been deemed as a potential risk, they can be sat on the side and then the nurse can go through and do a physical check as well. So these are the types of scenarios that people say, oh, why do we need fever detection for? Is there really a use case for it? We're somewhat beyond COVID, and we understand that COVID will still stay for quite a while as well. That is just one example of how this can be leveraged. I'm just going to quickly skip through some of these just to give you some insight. Mixed reality, we do have the second session coming up next year as well. That'll have a focus piece around mixed reality and how that works within the space. But just as an insight for you, that we're actually seeing that customers are constantly asking around how can they leverage mixed reality, how can they provide ROI? And what we're finding is that usually their infrastructure isn't up to scratch to be able to even provide this. And this is where that you'll start to see that there's opportunities to be able to leverage Cisco in terms of switching, in terms of access points, in terms of ensuring that there is that wireless connectivity that is up to scratch to be able to provide these types of solutions in market. Moving on, just a very brief piece. We've only got a few minutes left. again, just to kind of set the scene for you within the IoT area and the ecosystem, and where as a partner you'll be able to play, what you'll be able to provide. This is just, I guess, a quick snapshot of what we look at within one of these solutions. And this has been built specifically around the surface awareness intelligence solution that I showed earlier. But we see that we've got the artificial intelligence vendor in the middle. And where that then starts to build into is that you won't just provide artificial intelligence, you'll be providing the switching to go with that. That'll also include then the Meraki cameras and then also installation services of that. You then start to build into Microsoft. You start to provide Windows 10 and recurring licensing around that, especially with the artificial intelligence. You've got the Intel NUC even at a base layer to provide edge processing. And then finally into that secondary piece that's absolutely critical is that the customers are saying, well, great, you're providing this, but we actually need it as a service. And that's where as a partner can provide so much value to them in terms of data analytics. You can provide the reporting back with this. You can give them insight into what they're looking at and what ROI they can provide for it. And then finally, the integration services as well. So really today was just a bit of a snapshot into some of these solutions, also to give you some insight from Ross's point of view and from Cisco's point of view of where they're heading, what the market entails and what it looks like as well. So with that, I really want to thank you all for joining, Ross as well for being a part of this. Again, we will continue on this journey for IoT as well as we progress through next year. And please make sure if you want to know more to be able to join the other webinar sessions. I believe the team will be posting that link up as well so that you can join. If you've got any further questions or would like any further information, feel free as well to be able to let me know or the team. We've got a dedicated IoT email address that the team will post up as well so that you can get in contact with us and ask questions. If there's a solution that you've seen or you want to understand more, for example, within IoT, within any of these areas, feel free to reach out. So again, thank you very much all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.